Welcome to Below the Line, where we talk about working in Hollywood from the crew perspective. My name is Skid. I'm a former assistant director and your host.
Quiet on the set.
Today we're talking about The Walking Dead, the long-running AMC show that concluded its 11th and final season last month. My guests are from the Grip Department. First up, returning to the show, is Nicole Higgins. Nicole, you worked on season 10 of the show. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. And joining us for the first time is Frankie Zamora, who was the best boy grip for season 10. Frankie, welcome to Below the Line.
Hey, how are you doing?
Not bad. Been looking forward to have this conversation, I got to tell you, for a long time. But first, a warning for our listeners. Spoilers are possible during today's discussion. Let's start out by just talking about how each of you got involved with The Walking Dead.
I got a call from a key that I worked with a long time ago, quite a few times. He came back. Like, hey, I got a job in Atlanta. I know you're there. Can you best this show for me? And then I found out it was Walking Dead afterwards. We went from there. I said, are you really sure you want to do this show? And he goes, yeah, I want to do this show. I said, okay. I've heard nothing but nightmares. And I think we were the fourth or fifth grip department to jump onto the show. So I think it was a little challenging for the grip department for the turnover. And obviously there was a lot of turnover for other departments as well, but that was the main one going in knowing that.
Did they have the same grip department for like 3 years and then it started flipping every year, or?
Well, the first guy that did it was from LA, did season 1. Then a local did season 2, 3, and 4, I think. And somebody else did 5, 6, and 7 or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, there was like blocks of people doing it, and then just they couldn't do it. They couldn't take it anymore.
And so it wasn't because the cinematographer changed and brought in new people each time.
No, not that I'm aware of. I think it was just, it's a show where you start out in the spring, and it's pollen season. If you haven't been in Georgia, everything's yellow. Well, that's why I'm talking like this right now.
We might leave that cough in.
Yeah. And I only did one season, but we start in the spring and you end in basically Thanksgiving. So you get some nice weather to start, and then it gets really, really hot, and everything's exterior, 95% of the show. And it's also nights, and you're out in the woods, and you're out in the water, and just all the elements that, whatever's going to go wrong goes wrong. There's full setups where everyone has to, I think it was the first or second day, and it just shook my head. I was like, this is how it's going to be the whole show. A huge lightning storm comes in. It just starts raining the whole time, and you're just like scratching your head, and it's like, oh, I got to dry all this stuff out. It's like, oh, it's going to be terrible tomorrow.
Nicole, did nobody warn you about this? I talked about how you got started.
I was just desperate. I was like waiting for a call from an internship program to see if they could even like get me in on a grip department, which I think we talked about previously. And The Walking Dead was the first one that came up, and I had no idea, no expectations, no information about it going in at all. Yeah, so I had no idea. So to me, honestly, I didn't even think they were challenges. I was like, this is fun. It's like I never, worked in a different scenario as a grip. So it was like, it seemed normal to me.
Well, Frankie, let's dive in a little deeper on some of those challenges, Nicole, that you were seeing for the first time on a set. Frankie, you talked about the weather, and this show, there's just a lot of elements under difficult conditions. I want to hear more about it.
It's a challenge. Everything's a challenge, no matter where you're at. If you're in an office building in downtown, if you're on a skyscraper at the top of the roof with the winds, it just depends. This was just out in the woods, and it was just hot, and there's mosquitoes, and there were ticks. There's a lot of ticks.
Yeah, my first day I got a bunch of ticks.
There were a lot of ticks, but it's just schlepping everything through the woods, getting cranes into the woods, getting stands and bags, and making sure guys don't roll their ankles or get hurt or slip or fall. And there was a bunch of that, and then the conditions, once it starts raining, they just deteriorate and it gets worse, and room for error improves of you getting hurt or not making the day or just stuff like that.
That's one thing I didn't expect. Carrying stuff and like a tree, like, because you're carrying like big stands, and then like the smallest weavy branch will like nick your thing and pull you back, and you're like fighting trees.
The DP wants an overhead in the wood, and you got to get up on a ladder and put a pulley up and try and get it out as quick as possible, because you can't build a frame, it's there's just certain things that, you adapt to and, you overcome, but it's just with the price of not sleeping, doing 13, 14-hour days. And, it's in the middle of nowhere. Everyone lives an hour outside easily.
Hour and a half.
Or an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. So you're driving in, an hour before call, hour and a half before call, and leaving, and then so making that same trip back to wherever you stayed. It's very taxing. It adds for a long, long day from beginning to end.
This isn't the kind of show you can stage on a lot somewhere in the middle of the city. Like all of the woodwork and everything with the zombies really takes place further out. So where are they shooting all this?
Sonoya, Georgia was where the little compound was, and the studio, which they had a couple stages, but barely used. The big house that got burned down at the end was on the property that, I don't know, they leased out from a family, whatever, that they built all that stuff and did all that stuff there with the big wood tree fence, whatever that was. So that was there.
The Hilltop House, the Hilltop, is that what they called it? Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
So that, that was on. That was
Alexandria was the neighborhood, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The compound.
Yeah. That was like driving distance. Everything else was like kind of on like a lot area, but it was just land.
Yeah. Or they would go around and find, old country roads with old homes. We'd shoot, on whatever, however many acres there, whatever wood sequence. There's streams on the property that they shoot. So any water stuff we did around there, but very minimal on stage. I know we built a cave in the stage that took place over 2 or 3 episodes. I don't know what it was about. But other than that
was probably worse than being outside.
Yeah.
I was going to say, hopefully that's a break for a couple of episodes.
With all the dirt and dust that was in there and nowhere to circulate, it was just like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they dropped a hole, and all the dust and dirt just billowed out through the cave.
Yeah. That was one of the main sets that season, I think. And then there's a house inside. That was the outside house, but it was interior that we would shoot at. And then there's just a bunch of horse stuff, which is kind of, I was like, what's going on? Why are there horses?
I only remember the one horse day when they had the drone, and I feel like that's the only day I remember of horses, but I'm sure there was tons more.
Yeah, when we started, it was very horse heavy.
Yeah, I don't think I was there for that.
That was another thing, getting the camera close enough to the horse that they don't get spooked, and the handler, and had to be on an electric car with a techno crane on it, and the crane could only get so close to the horse, and there's a lot of logistical challenges, because they're not walking on the street, they're walking in a creek with an actor on the horse, and then you got the handler and trying to keep them out of frame, and the car moving at the right speed, and the focus puller trying to pull focus. There's a lot of elements that takes place just for that one shot that a lot of people don't realize, even though it's just one person on a horse trotting along. So those were some of the challenges that we ended up having. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was, doing in 95-degree weather with ticks on you, it gets kind of annoying, but,
It sounds like it'd be a difficult show under any conditions, but then you have these conditions that don't actually contribute to what's showing up on camera. Well, I can see why there'd be a lot of turnover with crew. And was that a general sense of crew? I think you said some departments stuck around.
Some departments stuck around. The electric department was fantastic. The gaffer was fantastic. The rigging gaffer was fantastic. They've been there since, I think since day one. I think since a pilot, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was very, very, very early on. They did their thing and they were happy with it. It's daylight exterior. Yeah, electric doesn't do much. They might not want to hear it, but it's like there's really not a whole lot going on. It's like, what are we gonna do?
Now I have to do a separate show with them so they can come defend their work as well. But we'll worry about that that'll be an episode for another day.
Charging your phone was the biggest thing. We get an Apple box, please. Our phones are at 10%. It's like, dude, it's 9 a.m. What have you been doing? Oh, watching work. Okay, that's fine. So,
Well, talk to me about some other memories from when you were working on the show, whether it's specific scenes or just, the experience of being in this grind.
It was just, man, it was just a lot of splits. Just, we'd start at 6 a.m. on Monday, on a pre-call, unloading carts and just, schlepping stuff through the woods. And then, God, we may end up, on a Friday evening, with a 4:30 call for one day shot, and then go right into nights till, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. So it's just, they don't film scary movies during the day. So it's all nights. It's just, you kind of get used to it going in. Just your weekend's gone for the most part. You sleep the most part of Saturday and try and recoup for a day, and you start all over again on Monday.
The food was so good.
Yeah, that's one thing that did
So
happen.
good.
The cater, and a lot of caters, it's just what it is. But they actually had a very, very good caterer. It was fantastic. It's like, at least you'd enjoy coming in. It's like, okay, I can get breakfast.
They threw a party for us interns on the last day, and I think they had like sushi and lobster and all kinds of stuff. And Crafty was good too. They had really good snacks. It was the best snacks.
Yeah, people at work don't go to craft service, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I recall being the craft giver for you guys. I was the getter. I had to go get everything. That's how they treat their interns. Go get us food.
So other challenge, getting condors in and out of, a lot of woods and hilly places with frames on them.
Oh,
yeah. There's a lot of that.
Remember that one time they blew up it was like a mound of dirt, and they blew it up, and they had just left the cameras there and ran away from it.
No.
And one camera just went.
No,
maybe you weren't there.
That's another part. I think the camera department's been there. Not the DPs, because they've switched out a lot of DPs over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's alternating DPs as well every other episode. But the camera department, I think, has been there since day one, a lot of those guys, except from the pilot. So they've been around the whole time. At least a little consistency there, and electric, and
that show did feel like the most like family show ever. Like everybody felt like they had all known each other. You know what I mean? It had been a lot, because a lot of them had been working together.
There was a lot of continuity.
It was a huge family element there.
I think the construction guys were new that season, and the art director was new. It came from a different show. I think the original art directors had left, that did the first 9. And I think, people just get, hey, I did it. It's done. Time to move on to another project. I can only make so many shacks.
Well, yeah.
I can only draw a shack so many ways for a zombie to come out of. It's like, or an abandoned store.
Over and over, you're just kind of like, I need a change.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you guys about some specific elements from that season 10. That's the one where the hilltop burns, right? Like,
yes.
They set all that on fire. So talk to me about those days on set.
Oh, I was so tired that day.
I think those were nights. I think it was like a week of nights.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the episodes where one of the DPs was actually got sick, and they had to get replaced with another DP that came in cold, not knowing, you know what I mean? And it's hard because he wants to set his look, but there's already look established. And, he had done some other stuff from whatever spinoffs that The Walking Dead already had. So he kind of knew, but it's still, it's your episode. You want to set the look. So there's a little, I guess the routine got changed up a little bit. So we had to adapt a little, there's more lights, more condors, more frames, more exterior night lighting. Thank God electricians finally did something for that than what normally was there, which was fine. But that was I think they shot that for 3 nights. It was a whole ordeal. There's so many segments and little elements to it that had to be choreographed, and special effects and stunts, and there's a lot of stuff that had to work out to get everything. If not, they weren't going to make the days.
That season also had the Whisperers, right? Like, you're talking massive amounts of zombies and these zombie hordes that I don't think was present every season. Was that a element that you guys had to deal with as grips as well? Or we talking more visual effects? How did that come together?
It had that big fight, remember?
No,
with
I don't.
he left a little bit early, so
Yeah,
some of
like
the
the last
stuff.
episode.
Yeah, they had the Whisperers, and then there was like a big field fight. You don't remember against like the Whisperers and
No,
they had like rounded up a bunch of zombies somehow to like follow them into this big fight, and it was like massive. There were so many people there.
just describe West Side Story.
And then there was the one when you were gone with the Star Wars guys. Like
No.
it was like Star Wars people. I don't watch the show, so like I don't even know what in reference any of this is, you know? Like I just knew
I didn't read the scripts. I didn't watch the show, so I really don't know. I know there were some days where, we had fucking 300 extras.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, this is where all the money's going. But that was another thing. They had a lot of fallout, just not safety but safety wise with extras and being in those latex masks and stuff, and just getting heat exhaustion.
Yeah.
Just standing out there for 4 hours. I mean, it's 95 degrees, and you're not used to that. Hey, I'm just gonna come out and do a day. It's a shocking day.
Yeah, not everywhere was like a area where people could go stand under trees in some shade for, I mean, they tried to break everybody as much as possible because it is really hot and they had umbrellas out there.
Yeah. But you had a lot of people that just don't realize how hot it actually gets out there every day. When you were done working, especially like Monday and Tuesday, when we were there all day,
sun whipped.
You could feel it just going on. You're like, oh, it's only Tuesday. Like, man, I wish I was an electrician.
Yeah, those guys are definitely going to be on the show next. Talk to me about the cast. How did the cast react to all of these challenges? Because they're in some of that same. Obviously, they're not carrying your equipment up and down the hill, but they're out there as well, and this is difficult.
No, absolutely. I mean, they had some challenging stuff to do, in the river. Or I keep remembering the one place we kept going to where it was flooded when we scouted it, and then it was like we went back and it was just bone dry. It was like a drought happened in like 4 days. Like where'd all this water go? And there were scenes in there with zombies and stuff, and I think a lot of the actors had to be physically capable of doing stuff because they asked them to do a lot. If not, it's like, oh, get the stunt guy to do it. It was like, no, you're doing it. Your face is on camera. So they had to deal with that, and same thing. They had to deal with the elements of the snakes,
and they were in like they didn't
ticks,
and they didn't have the option either of being able to like wear shorts because a lot of them were in long clothes. You know, like so
a lot of long clothes.
They were extra hot, and they did lots of fight choreography. Some of them.
Yep.
Anyone that made particular impressions or stories about certain actors or even other crew?
I was good friends with the caterer. They're fantastic.
Particular impressions. I did have a good impression. One of the producers that brought me out was like super kind to me. That when I did the internship, she was super kind to me. And then she's the one that actually reached out to me when they came back from COVID, which I was like, oh God, all that stuff and COVID, like, no, and, like a mask and a shield and 95 degrees. Oh, no way. But she gave me the opportunity to come back, which normally like their grip department would call me. And she had actually just called and invited me, which I thought was really nice and really kind of her, but I was already on something else. So she really stood out to me because she was really kind and went the extra mile to be nice to me and give me opportunities.
Your working on the show has led to other opportunities, right? You had moved on to other shows. As you said, you were busy when they called you back. Where'd you guys end up after season 10?
I left to go do
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that was the first streaming thing for Disney. Just kind of been on a roll after that.
Yeah, it was Falcon, and then it was
Miss
Marvel, and then it was what was the small one's Apple?
Memories. That was the Samuel Jackson.
Was that the real name?
The Ptolemy Gray series.
Yes.
You guys did that as well?
Yes, that was it.
So do you think that Walking Dead was just uniquely challenging because of what you're trying to film and the added environmental elements, or is just shooting in Atlanta that tough? Like, have all these shows been that tough? Because you're talking about a lot of other big stuff in there too.
It was the show itself. Once you're that deep into 10 seasons, there's not a lot of we're gonna make it better. This is what it is. You're gonna grind it out and you're gonna like it, or you can leave. that's what it is. You know, they have a budget. They're going to stick to that budget. It's like, wait a minute, when you save some money, kill him off. He's been around too long. You know, they wanted to get their product and it was fine, but it just, that's why the crew before was just like, you know what, we've done 3 seasons. We're out of here. Like, you want to keep rushing, you know.
I feel like, I don't know if it's because did a bunch of Marvel stuff and like things after that, but it felt very like indie to me, you know. It was like the way that like not,
well, you have
does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
but you have to remember there are different
compared to everything else.
There are different levels from cable TV to network TV to a $20 million feature, $50 million feature, $100 million feature, $250 million feature. There are different levels of, this is what we're going to spend the money on because we want this. Someone that has spent the money for the last 9 years doing it this way is not going to spend the money a different way. Like, those are the line items, and that's what they're spending the money on, and that's it. If your dog pees in your house every day for 10 years, you're not going to start taking him outside. He's not going to get it. He's like, no, dude, I piss here. Like, this is where it's going to happen. And it's the same thing for TV shows. You always have a limited budget when you do network television, when you do cable television. And even though the show has so much success, it doesn't mean their budgets are going up. They don't care. They're going to pay what it is. They're going to look at that little bit of whatever the percentage is that they have to give the guy raises, you know, each year, because it's all union. And that's it. But they're not going to spend the money to make the quality of life of,
I feel like
the grip department better,
no,
or
I know
the
that.
electric department better.
I feel like they have a look though, and like that works, and they're just gonna keep replicating it. You know,
Correct.
It's like a soap opera
Yeah.
at this point. It's just
Exactly, yeah.
regurgitated, recycled.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these people are gonna fight these people. Okay, now these people are gonna fight these people, and people like the look of it, and you know what I mean.
They wrapped the 11th season of the show, indeed, but there's still a lot of Walking Dead out there for people who are looking for it. But it doesn't sound like you guys are looking for another gig on one of these other shows. Sounds like you've moved on to other things.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do it again. You wouldn't?
Good for you.
You wouldn't? I would totally do it. I felt like I got the best workout out there.
You can drive an hour and a half.
I did. I mean, well, it won't be that far from me anymore. I moved, so.
Well, you're both doing a lot of interesting things in Atlanta now, and so I hope we'll get you back to talk about some of those shows with us. Really appreciate having you guys on the show today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on again.
Listeners, let me know what you think of these shorter episodes. You'll find my contact info at our website, belowtheline.biz. That's B-I-Z. You'll also find past episodes and links to all of our social media, so check it out. You guys, stuff you're working on now that you're particularly proud of, something that's coming out that people ought to watch for?
Oh, no.
We're kind of embarrassed of the last one.
No, it's been rough. It's been rough. It's like, oh man, this movie's gonna make $2 billion, and they have no idea the pain that I went through. You know, it's like, or the pain that really everybody went through the last 10 months.
We don't need to draw any negative attention with your shout-outs,
No, yeah.
so
If you want to rattle off, if you want me to email you what we worked on and you want to rattle it off, but I don't think it's going to come with any beautiful gumption from us. It's going to sound like dreadful. I don't even think we can utter the words nicely anymore.
Well, my shout-outs are still nicely to the regular bunch. Thanks to Curtis Five for our music, John Wan for our logo, and all of your listeners, I appreciate you. Please rate us wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends. Thanks again from Below the Line.